And welcome. We are live, and this is WP Dev Table episode 19, and we finally have Scott on board. We had some technical difficulties last time, but we're glad that we're able to get up and running to talk JavaScript, APIs, and AppPresser. For those of you listening to us for the first time, WP Dev Table is just a hangout with developers in a loose roundtable-like discussion forum. Talking about tools, best practices, tips, tricks, and mostly WordPress. And we try to broadcast every Monday to stay in the know, get on our newsletter list. That's at wpdevtable.com/subscribe. And today, like I said, we're happy to have the co-founder of AppPresser. He's been a speaker at conferences such as Macworld, LoopConf, and many WordCamps, and he's a pioneer in mobile apps plus WordPress. And pleased to have Scott here.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. And as usual, Tom?
Tom's here.
You didn't play around with your title this week?
Hey, I'm Tom. What's my title this week?
I don't know. You change it every week.
Okay. Now it's Director of WordPress Platform Services. I think that's consistent with what we had with Tim Nash.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes I'll abbreviate things or take out an of.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I'm Jason, as always. So Scott, last time we tried to have you on, we had a little bit of technical difficulties, and we kind of were going around the table at least a little bit in trying to figure out what everybody's goals for this year were, considering that was in January. What you went pretty in depth as far as that goes. It kept cutting out, so we kind of want to touch base a little bit on that.
Yeah, so my goals professionally and personally, I think that's what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm not big on doing New Year's resolutions or anything like that. I'm the kind of guy, like, if I want to get in shape, I'll just like go do it whenever I feel like I need to do it. And so I don't make big New Year's resolutions or anything like that, but I do think it's important to set goals, and especially business-wise. And so this year, I definitely sat down and looked at where we had come from, how 2015 went, and what we want to do in 2016 and beyond. And I think it's important to just set, large sort of macro goals, and then break those down into manageable steps and see what you can really do from day to day and month to month and things like that. One of our big goals in 2016 is professionally is definitely to just increase revenue in incremental ways, and so we're taking a real hard look at our data and analytics as far as like conversion rates and email subscriptions and things like that in our funnel, and trying to just make tweaks and do small, simple things to make incremental increases in revenue that will, over time, will add up to a lot. So, for example, like if we can increase our renewal rate by 10% or whatever, that's X amount of dollars. And then if we can increase our like checkout conversion rate by like 5% or whatever it is, that's like X amount of dollars. If we can increase different things to our email subscription rate, that means we'll increase further down the funnel. And so we're kind of just looking at each of these things and making incremental increases, and it adds up to a lot after a while if you do all these small changes. And so that's been really cool. On a bigger scale, we definitely are looking at releasing some new products. We're releasing AppPresser 2. It's already in beta. It's got a lot of new cool stuff that we've been testing. We're really excited about that. Beyond that, we also are looking into doing other things that are sort of a lot bigger than what we're doing now. So, releasing a product that could be available to a larger market we're kind of saying, hey, how can we become a $10 million company? And not that that's easy to do or anything, but it's like that's what our thinking is now. And if we shoot for being a $10 million company, what's the market we need to go after? What are the products that we can release to do that? And I really think with our team that we have now, my partners and also my team, I just think that we can do a lot. And so if we set our goals, if we set our sights really high, I think we're really going to achieve it. So we're in the early stages of that. We have some really good ideas and things, but one of the biggest parts of that is just going after a bigger market than, like, WordPress in itself is 25% of the web. That means that there's 75% of the web out there that we're not addressing. So looking at something bigger than WordPress is definitely something that we're considering. And then at the same time, building apps is awesome and we love it, but it's a very small percentage of the population that needs a native mobile app or wants a native mobile app. There's a lot more people that need just like a website, or whatever it is, or something that attaches to their website and does something cool. So just by simply expanding the market in that way, that's kind of what we've been looking at to serve a bigger audience and have, be able to go farther than we can go now. Personal goals, I got into mountain biking and I really love it, so I want to do a lot more of that. But,
yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I know that we talked earlier in 2015 and about a project that I had on my plate, or at least was potentially coming across my plate, where this restaurant company, they had a number of restaurants, but they had bars as well, and they were using this I don't know what you really call it, but it was basically like a tap system where they had various beers on tap, and it was like all digital. There was an API for it, and the API was terrible, but the API told you like the ABV and the IBUs and how much was left in the keg and when the last time when the keg was changed and all that kind of stuff. And they wanted to they were thinking about creating some sort of, whether it was a native mobile app or something attached to the website where somebody could just walk into one of their restaurants or bars and kind of like order right from the phone, from their iPhone. And I know that that's where we were, kind of connecting at least earlier in the year and talking that about. And that was pretty cool to, for me anyway, to see that at least there's some smaller businesses out there that are starting to see where they can grow their businesses in innovative ways that maybe not other companies are doing and not other businesses are doing.
Yeah, definitely.
So now it's like mid-February, right? Yeah, day after Valentine's Day. Mm-hmm. So you've already started to make progress on some of those goals that you had for this year. Is there anything that you've taken away at this point?
Yeah, definitely. So Jay Armeda is now a part of our team, and he is really big into data and analytics and things like this. So he's really been pushing us to be more data-driven and make decisions based on data and things like that. So one thing that we've been doing is more A/B testing, and one of the things that we were successful in is we made some pretty major changes to our site messaging, and I just released a blog post about this on AppPresser.com, but it's about telling your company's story and getting that across to your customers on your website. So one of the things we really sucked at was just the copy that was on our website was not really telling people our story. And when I would, when Dre joined the team, he was like, well, tell me about your product, tell me, just give me like the elevator pitch for it. And I kind of gave him this elevator pitch, and it's just like a few sentences, but it really it's a really concise way of describing what we do, who it's for, how it benefits them. And then we looked at the website, and the website wasn't really telling that story. And so what we did is we kind of wrote out the whole story and then in a longer form, and then we broke it down into chunks that we could actually put into our website design in different places. And so that way when people are looking at our website, they're hearing this same story that's consistent with what we want to tell. And it's not just a bunch of like marketese or like just industry slang or weird like feature-based stuff that people aren't looking for. It really tells a story of who it's for and how it can help them. So we made the changes to the site, and then we put it into Optimizely, did an A/B test with our old homepage, and we ended up getting about a 12 to 14% increase in traffic through basically to the next portion of our funnel. Click-throughs to the next page or whatever that may be. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's thousands of people every month, and so it really makes a huge difference. And so our goal is to do that. If we do that in each part of our funnel, and say there's 4 parts to our funnel or whatever, that could end up being like tens of thousands of dollars in sales, every month. And so that's kind of what we're looking at now, is doing that same thing with each part of our funnel. But we did see success in just that first part, which has been really cool. And another thing I've been working on is just recently, I've been trying out ConvertKit. Have you guys heard of ConvertKit? Yeah. So I'm getting really into like sending, getting like really cool like just email sequences for our customers to kind of learn about our product and get acquainted with it, build trust with it. And then I'm kind of testing to see how this is going to help our sales, but I can't see a reason why it wouldn't be really beneficial, just because one of our big problems with AppPresser is that it's a very different product and people don't always understand how it works or how they can use it. And so I created an email sequence that just sort of tells them about it, and not super salesy, just information about our product and how they can use it, how it works, all this kind of stuff. And so I'm really excited. I just did this like last week, but that's another thing that that I'm really interested to see how that's going to help, bring people through our funnel and convert them and build trust and everything better. So
yeah. It's funny how messaging on the website can really affect how people interact with your website and actually get to you. Because I did the same thing towards the like end of November last year. Same thing. I changed it all around. Entirely different response from people. Like they feel like they get what I do and what I can provide for them and their benefit, and that stuff like that. And same thing. I happen to use Drip instead of ConvertKit, but similar thing. Like when I bring on a client, or even before that, when they sign up, I kind of give them a Drip campaign. And it's fun to see, like, you could set the trigger links based on what they click on to kind of tag them accordingly as they go through the sales funnel to see where those people actually pick up steam and actually become a customer of yours. It's really, you could spend all day doing those things though.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges is there's so many tools to gather data now, and they're so good at giving you all the data you could possibly get that half the problem is just sorting through it all and deciding what to do with it. Like a tool like Woopra or Mixpanel or anything, like there's so much data you can get about who your people are that are visiting your site. But one of the problems is like, okay, now how do I break this down into something actionable I can actually do about it? So that's kind of like half the problem these days.
Yeah. I mean, like for Drip, I'm kind of just using it basic, just kind of basic sales funnel, but then it kind of, at the last, prior to the sale email that goes out to, sign up, I basically kind of give them kind of like a trigger. It's just 2 links based on what they click on is whether or not we actually go to that next level and spend, it gets rid of a lot of the tire kickers too. If they don't click on that next link, then all right, no skin off my chest, so it's like
No, that's that's great to kind of have an automated way to pre-qualify some of your clients, because that's a big problem with higher end development, which, you may not, I don't know if you consider yourself a higher end development, but really, pretty much everyone I know is higher end development. I would consider it because none of most of the people I know are not taking clients for $500.
Right.
And a lot of people charge tens of thousands for websites, and so when you get to that level, you have to pre-qualify. So you have to get rid of basically 90% of the people that email you. It's just they're just wasting your time because they don't want to spend that kind of money. So yeah, that's really cool that you have an automated way of doing that.
Yeah, and the thing is too, if they click the other link or they don't click it, then they're kind of just they're still in my email list as just general interest. So anytime I do a blog post or something like that, they'll still get that information. They don't, until they unsubscribe or whatever. But at least there's that, automated tire kicking thing.
Yep.
For both of you, I'm kind of curious how that goes. So say someone doesn't convert right away, but they go into your email campaigns. What kind of conversion rates do you see over the long term with people that are subscribed to your list that become paying customers?
Oh man, okay, so I just looked at this the other day. Jason, go ahead. I'm going to try to see if I can find this.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a little different because it's just me, right? So I only have so many hours in a day to take on somebody. But what I try to do is I try to either get them to a consultation if I don't have any slots open. So if they click on that, then for conversion rates for me, like I have about an average of I think it's like 8.5% conversion on my sign up. So what that means is really that goes in the general bucket. But for somebody to actually stay on and get to that kind of fork in the road, that I have about 4% click on that trigger link to become a customer of mine. So whether that means that we get on a phone call or we actually take it to that next level and they become a client, that's where I'm at with that. But it's tough for me to discern where they're going to become a client. I've had 3 people become clients straight from my email list, just through the website that way. And for me, I only take on 7 total, and I've had long-term clients on forever, and it's monthly recurring anyway. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. But the thing is, it's eliminated the process of somebody just shooting me an email or shooting me on Twitter or something like that and saying, hey, can we set up a phone call? I have a website, or I have a WooCommerce store that I want to optimize and get subscription-based products in there or something like that. And it's perfect for me.
That 4% conversion, is that 4% of the 8% or 4% of the total?
That's 4% of the total. So, and the thing is, there's a lot of play in there too. Like as far as the emails that go out, I have a 4 email sequence. And it depends. Like I've tweaked that email sequence too. Like totally pulled out one email and put something else in because I noticed that unsubscribes at the 3rd one were getting a little bit higher than I wanted. So there's all that data analyzing that you have to like kind of like figure out like, oh, well, they don't like this, so let me pull this out and put something else in.
Yeah, for me, I haven't kept good track of that. That's one of the reasons why I'm using ConvertKit now, is because I want to keep better track of that. But we have MailChimp, and my conversion rates are definitely lower than 4%, and they're actually too low. That's one of the things that I'm really working on. And that's one of the things I want to do with ConvertKit, is see what kind of conversion rates I can get with a longer email sequence and everything, because I've never done this before. Usually it was just we have an opt-in for getting the AppPresser Developer Handbook, and we get a pretty good amount of subscriptions for that. But that's, yeah, I don't know, really probably surprisingly low to you, Tom, I would think. But I would also think that most people who buy something from me probably are on an email list somewhere, so I honestly don't know.
I mean, as far as what I think is high or low, it really doesn't have anything to go on. So I'm more curious than anything, because sales in the business that I'm in aren't really driven by email lists at all anyway. So
right.
like we're doing like consulting work for large media companies. So usually those are all face-to-face meetings or discussions that are occurring on another medium that end up face-to-face anyway, as opposed to having anything where it can be semi-passive or semi-automated.
Right, yeah, so mine's not like that at all. So mine's definitely all online sales and, yeah, all online stuff. And yeah, so I mean, one thing, not really conversion related, but one interesting thing that I just did recently as well is I went into MailChimp, and I feel like every month MailChimp is emailing me and saying my plan's going to cost more. So I'm like, I'm like, dude, I don't want to pay all this money. So I went in there and I looked at my subscribers, and I thought, you know, there's got to be a fair amount of people who just never open an email, never click on it, and never will. And I just want to get rid of those so I don't have to pay for those people to be sitting in MailChimp. So I figured out a way in MailChimp you can segment subscribers based on, like, you know, what they've opened or what they've clicked on or when they've signed up on the list. So I kind of said, okay, if someone signed up like 6 months ago or earlier, and they haven't clicked on any of my last like 20, or haven't even opened any of my last like 20 emails, I basically just dumped all those people, and it was like thousands of people. And so I'm just like, sweet, so knock me down like 4 price tiers on MailChimp. But yeah, that was, and then you can also do things where you like send them a resubscribe campaign where you like you take those people, instead of just dumping them, you send them an email and you say, hey, if you want to stay on this list, like, let me know. Otherwise, I'm getting rid of you. Yeah. So I've done that before too, but the response was so low from that group of people anyways, I didn't even do it this time because they're not even opening my emails.
Yeah. So. I mean, that's like a good general sales tactic too. Like when you're responding to someone via email or emailing them and they never get back to you, and you assume the lead is dead until you go and send that final email being like, I will not contact you again, you know, like, let me know. And sometimes it's just the case that they're busy and haven't had a chance to do something, but, you know, many of those times it's what you said, they're people that aren't going to take any action anyway, and then you can go and dump them from your list.
Yeah, yeah. It depends on the use case, right? Like if it's high dollar clients, you don't want to just get rid of these emails. But if it's people who signed up because they were like 2 years ago because they were kind of curious and haven't clicked anything since, for me, it's like, eh.
At the same time, with a salesperson, even if it is a high dollar client and you have a lot of prospects that you're trying to like go through, where are you spending your time most effectively? And if it's on these dead end clients where maybe they could possibly convert, but how much time have you invested to that point in the hopes that they will convert, but probably won't because of what we were just talking about. So it's like, where do you draw the line of saying that this is the final email unless like you let me know that you want to keep it going?
Right.
On the MailChimp lists, are those payment tiers based on number of subscribers per list?
It's total number of subscribers in your account. So okay. I have 2 lists. But anybody, you know, it all counts towards my total subscriber count.
Gotcha.
And I think ConvertKit and Drip are the same way, but they do a better job at being able to segment out like between lists and tags. You know, they do a better job at it than MailChimp. Because I moved from MailChimp over into Drip about a year ago, and just I don't know, it's so much easier like to manage them.
One of their sales pitches is that they count, if you have the same subscriber on like 3 different lists, it counts as 1 person. But in MailChimp, if you have the same person on 3 different lists, it counts as 3 people. So that was one of ConvertKit's sort of sales pitches, which is interesting. I haven't fully moved over though. I'm kind of still using both. I'm still kind of waiting to see kind of how it's all working out.
The segmentation in MailChimp can be extremely granular. And you can really customize that a lot. And I've done a lot of work with their API where I'm creating like custom segments per email based on different parameters that people are subscribed to within within WordPress. And then that goes and on the fly generates this like static segment that goes off to MailChimp and creates a custom list just for that email. But like you said, like there's no way to go and prevent that from happening if they're between lists. Because if everyone is in the same list and you're using some kind of segmentation parameters, then it can go and figure out duplicates. But that only exists within a single list. So if you're like merging lists together, that wouldn't work at all.
Yeah, and I think MailChimp could probably do all the same stuff Drip and ConvertKit does if you really wanted to, but it's not set up to do that as its main priority, and so it's a lot harder, and there's some constraints within MailChimp, but I still like it. I'm not fully convinced that I'm going to convert everything over yet. But I think for sending mass broadcasts to a lot of people, MailChimp is really easy to just make a campaign, send out an email to a bunch of people. Mm-hmm. Whereas ConvertKit to me is more set up for like these sequences, and then having multiple sequences, multiple forms, and then being able to kind of fluidly move people in and out of all those different places based on actions that they do. And MailChimp doesn't do that very well, at least that I've seen.
Yeah, I think it's more that ConvertKit and Drip are more like email marketing automation versus just being an email service provider for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I may have mentioned this on a previous podcast, but the number one thing that has held me up in MailChimp is the 60 group limit. I don't know if you've seen that, but you can only create 60 groups, and it's a hard limit that there's no way around.
Oh, really? Huh.
So if you're doing something where like you're creating a group based on like tags or some other taxonomy or whatnot, like just be aware that you will hit a hard limit of 60.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I haven't done a whole bunch of stuff with groups, but that's interesting. No.
So have you guys read the whole chat in the core API channel about what would be included or what would not be included and what it would look like for something to even be considered to be included? It turned into that WP Tavern post. Or that,
yeah, we're talking about the REST API railroading thing.
Yeah, and the 4 endpoints versus having a whole WP admin feature complete API with file editing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know if you guys want to make this whole thing about the API, because we could go into a lot of stuff with that, but yeah,
I mean,
I'm not happy with what's going on.
I don't want to get into like drama press, but I think there are some interesting things that came out of it. I always enjoy seeing Matt's opinion in comments, if for nothing more than it brings more context to what's going on, because I mean, I enjoyed reading the post on WP Tavern, but I think it was slightly sensationalist, which I think is kind of what Matt was getting at. And it was really just a conversation that was occurring rather than it being like, oh my gosh, this is, total standstill.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't actually read the core conversation stuff. I only read like post status in WP Tavern and tweets and stuff. But yeah, from what I heard, it didn't sound like Matt was going to let it move forward, and he was pretty set on that. But sometimes, I don't know. I could be wrong.
Sometimes it seems like it's just devil's advocate to see what kind of thoughts it will provoke and if it brings about a better end product. Because at one point I think he had said, does the REST API even belong in core? And I think that was more of a thought-provoking question than an actual we shouldn't include this in core statement.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I can't speak for him, but I think it's more useful as a thought provoker than as just being a thorn in your side.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm a strong advocate for the REST API being in core. So just to move WordPress forward on the web in general, leaving it as a plugin means that WordPress itself does not get advanced at all. To me, that's like saying that Gravity Forms advances WordPress. I don't know, it's kind of this peripheral thing. But I'm a big believer that it needs to be in there, that it needs to be progressively enhanced, and that adding, some of the comments that Matt made about it needs to have a file editor before it can go into core, to me is just so ridiculous. I don't even know what to say. But I'm not gonna slam Matt because I know he has his reasons, and I think he's done a great job leading WordPress up to this point. I just really hope that this isn't a point where our benevolent dictator becomes someone who everyone else disagrees with. This sort of, to me, like, in a way, it could be foreshadowing some sort of point where Automatic starts having some friction with the rest of the open source WordPress world, and that hasn't happened really up to this point. I mean, a little bit of friction, but I'm saying like major colliding of interests, and it kind of worries me because Automatic's a for-profit company and everything, and I think they have great intentions. Matt has great intentions now. But just a little glimpse into what could possibly happen if someone who's the head of a for-profit company can halt the open source project for his own interests that's something that could happen. And I'm not saying that that's what he's doing now, but it kind of is to me is like, well, this could happen at some point in the future, which I think is kind of what happened with Acquia and Drupal a little bit, right? I mean, I don't know a whole lot about that project, but I've sort of heard rumblings of just friction between the community and the for-profit company that kind of runs the open source project.
Mm-hmm. I don't know a whole lot about that either.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that I was fearful of when I first saw those statements in like the WP Tavern post before I went and read all of the API chat was that I was scared that Matt was voicing the views or was under pressure from his investors rather than looking at it from the point of view of the community and the freedom of publishing that WordPress is trying to be. But in discussing with others, I think it's more so that he's looking at it from a product manager standpoint and trying to see like what is best for the product as a whole. And if you could have an API that was all-encompassing of WordPress itself, yeah, surely that would be better rather than having 4 endpoints. But what's more realistic on a project standpoint and having a release is probably having those defined set of endpoints that can be iterated over.
Yeah,
I'd rather have a 1.0 that's
Right.
through beta rather than a 1.0 alpha. Sure, but you have to go through beta first.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't understand the reasoning. I don't think Matt's doing it for any personal or profit reasons or anything. I think he really just thinks that's the best way to move forward. But to me, I just completely disagree. But he has more experience in this world than I do. So who am I to say? But I mean, I've been working with the API since it was in alpha and building products on it, and so I'm just really excited for it to get into core. And I would hate to see it held up for something like getting a file editor and other stuff in the WordPress admin that really doesn't need to be there. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah. Did you see Weston's core ticket on turning widgets into a first-class post type?
I didn't.
So fantastic. I was really excited when I saw that because I've wanted widgets to be a first-class post type forever, and it just makes so much more sense than having this serialized array containing all of the widgets and all of that data that has to be parsed through every time you want to display a single sidebar.
Right.
So if that were to occur, it would make me really happy, and it would also make it a lot easier to go and deal with widgets via the API.
Right.
So I'm hoping that could happen. I'm sure that has a gnarly nest of backwards compatibility issues to deal with.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, widgets have back compat issues anyway. Like every single widget that you ever create has a multi-widget equals 1 field stored in the database. Have you noticed that?
Really? No.
Because back in the day, widgets were a one-off thing, and you had to go and have special code in order to go and allow it to exist in multiple sidebars or be able to add it multiple times to things.
Right. Which is just a WordPress in general problem, right?
Yeah.
Backwards compatibility. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, yeah, because after building apps with the API, I mean, widgets are just completely ignored. You just don't display widgets with the API for making an app. So it would be interesting if it was a post type. It'd be really easy to do that. But man, shoot, who knows when that would happen?
This is true. I mean, I think the taxonomy roadmap moved along quite swiftly. I mean, it was a long time in planning, but it feels like once that ball started rolling, it did not stop until we're where we're at now, right?
Right.
So if something similar happened with widgets, I'd be so excited for that to occur.
Yeah, it seems like taxonomies, like everybody, all the developers were really, really excited about the taxonomies, and I think because of that, it just kind of got pushed to the front of the list and got a lot of work done. Yeah, I think anything that the community really gets behind, I'm sure it's going to get done,
Mm-hmm. So much of it seems like someone has to just go and spearhead that effort because otherwise no one cares. And like I love post formats, which everyone hates, and I'll probably get laughed at a little bit for saying that. But until I actually try to make an effort to make something happen with post formats, or someone else does, I don't think anything's ever going to happen with post formats other than someone suggesting that it gets relegated to a plugin.
Right. Yeah. No, I disagree with you on that one. I'm not a fan of post formats.
Fair enough. You are the majority. I really want to get into post formats now, but I won't because that's such a digression. So right before the podcast started, Josh Pollock announced that still on the API topic, he announced that his API course just released. Like I saw an email from him, and he'd been talking a while about the plan for his course and it being slightly delayed and whatever. So just seeing that email from him saying like this API course is now out in the wild was kind of exciting and good. I mean, there are existing API courses out there. Tim Nash has one that has been around for a bit. But it was exciting to see the trigger finally get pulled for this to be out in the open now. And I think that'll be pretty good for people. And he's split it up into multiple videos that can be viewed and purchased separately, as well as the entire course containing like all 4 or however many segments together.
So. Yeah, that's awesome. He knows a lot about the API. He's put out a lot of material on it, which is really great. So I'm sure it'll be a great course.
Yeah, I mean, I bought it, but I haven't looked at it yet.
Nice.
Well, if you just released it just before the podcast, I guess not.
Was that?
If you released it just before the podcast.
Right, yeah, I watched all the videos in 5 minutes.
Here's a question for you guys. Do you think that using the API is more difficult than normal plugin and theme development and WordPress development in general? Do you think it's more complex, more difficult, or is it just different?
I think it's just different.
Yeah, yeah, I would say that.
I think the nice thing is that you don't have all this cruft to deal with that so many times you have to deal with when working with plugins and themes, especially if you're, like, say you're someone that's using a base theme to start off with, and you have all these hooks that you have to unhook in order to do something. Well, you don't have to do that with the API, really. Like, you get to define if it's going to be a post or a get or whatever kind of request you want and exactly what that endpoint is doing. I'm going under the assumption of using like the framework of the API and not the endpoints that exist in the plugin. So from that standpoint, I think it's a lot easier to build something that does exactly what you want and nothing more, and not have to worry about any implications of anything else affecting that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I obviously love the API. One of the things that, to me, that I'm concerned with a little bit is I just don't know if it's going to get widespread usage amongst other people who are not just hardcore developers, you know. And I don't know if that's a valid concern or not, but I just think it's like if you want to do something like create a decoupled WordPress admin or something, there's a lot of skills you have to have that go beyond WordPress, and so that may be kind of a roadblock for people developing with it. And so I kind of worry that it's just going to kind of sit there and a few people are going to do cool things with it, but it's not going to get used as much as it could get used. I don't know, but maybe that'll just come with time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also going to open the door for some of those other developers, like you said, that that you have to know a little bit more than just WordPress development. You know, you're probably not gonna have like, Joe Theme Shop doing anything with the API unless they're building a theme based around that. But they're not going to be doing any interesting projects or things like that. Like I think some of the enterprise level clients and customers out there, I think those will probably be those, I guess, early adopters of things that inside the API. I mean, I know I can think of a handful off the top of my head that would are using it or about to be using it more. I just think it's a matter of time, really, and education from like those several developers, like you're saying, like the the 1%ers that are actually out there that are knowledgeable about doing it, saying like having the business people coming in saying like this is what we need to do, and then say, oh well, we can do this if we build out WordPress in this way,
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really what it's going to have to take to do that.
Themes and plugins wouldn't be a thing if it weren't for diehard developers going and building them and making them something, right? Which is exactly the same case that we're in with the API right now. And I think it's just
creating frameworks that makes it easier for everybody else to do it, right?
Yeah, or like just say you have 1,000 diehard developers that build 1,000, 2,000 themes. Well, now you have a bunch of themes, right? And it took those developers to get to that point, and then people can go and child theme it, right?
Yeah. Totally.
And then they start to learn how to go and tweak themes until they can go and build their own. So I think it'll be something similar here. And if we look at the API as a roadblock, if we look at a roadblock as more of a hurdle to jump over, it becomes more of a goal to strive for rather than something that's going to stop you from doing something. So just like when object-oriented PHP wasn't a thing in WordPress, well, eventually that happened and people learned how to do it, and now you see it a lot more. And now you see lots of JavaScript occurring in WordPress and cool things being built with JavaScript on top of WordPress. And now people are learning it, and you're seeing JavaScript developers come into WordPress. Same thing with the API. You're going to get new talent that comes in because of this new functionality that's available. And that new talent educates the rest of the community, or the rest of the community wants to keep up with the new talent that's there, and they finally learn it, and then everyone, gets raised up because of it.
Right. One thing that I'm really excited about seeing is really bad practice, just horrible uses of the WP API. When there's just like a theme that's just like the most horrible thing you've ever seen that has all these just bad core PHP functions, and they don't use any of the WordPress functions and stuff like that, and just really, really bad stuff. I'm really excited to see just some horrible plugin theme come out that's oh, it's all REST API theme, and it's just horrible. just to laugh at it. I'm just excited because there's just going to be so some people just putting out really bad stuff.
That would be really fun to mess around with. And it would be very easy too. You can go and put out malformed JSON that requires some special format, and only your theme can go and decipher this special kind of JSON feed.
Yeah, or you I don't know, do some stupid thing you bring in the JSON, the API feed from WordPress, and then you decode it and encode it again, and output it again, and then you use regex to fix everything that broke when you did that in the JavaScript, and
Oh, you're making me sad.
Man.
Scott's gonna buy up some domain name like badwprestthemes.com.
Yeah, totally.
If that takes off and becomes the prevalent WordPress theme framework for the REST API, oh man, I think it could totally happen too. I mean, I wouldn't stop you from doing it, but man,
totally. I'm excited to see that.
What if you hook the REST API up to the Heartbeat API being loaded on the front end with 5-second pings? I mean, that could get super gnarly really quick.
Yeah, that would be pretty good.
Speaking of, have you ever seen the Heartbeat API used on the front end in any intelligent way?
I'm not super experienced with the Heartbeat API. I haven't used it a whole lot myself, so I haven't seen it used a whole lot. So no.
Tried to use it once. It didn't go over well. Because all these responses are being generated from the front end, right? So, say you have 1,000 simultaneous windows open with the same site, they're all going to be making their pings, right? So then you get 1,000 pings every 15 seconds, and that doesn't scale too well.
Right. So what do you do with the site that gets millions of hits a month?
Yeah, you don't use the Heartbeat API with it. I mean, it would be so nifty for doing stuff like provide a notice when a post is published, if you're on the site already, right? Have a little window pop up and be like, hey, this just happened, That would be super neat. But having it be where you have to ping the server to see if something happened rather than the server pushing it up to you.
Yeah.
That's the big issue there.
This is why I love JavaScript.
So what got you into JavaScript? Why is that your main focus, Scott?
Because of apps. I mean, apps are, at least hybrid apps, it's just all JavaScript. So just building apps and things, it just was all right, just got to do it all in JavaScript. So, and then transitioning into when the REST API came out, it was even more JavaScript, because then you're building the app with the whole JavaScript framework and using the API and everything, and so just dove into it and sucked at it really bad at first, and I'm still not the world's most badass JavaScript developer, but I know a lot more than I used to know, especially about the stuff that I've been working with a lot, like Angular. So pretty happy with where I'm at least with Angular, but yeah, that's kind of how I dove in.
Did you do JavaScript before WordPress, or what?
No, not
what
really.
What did you do before WordPress?
I was in college. I was a music major, and I played jazz guitar. And then out of college, I sold boats, And then when I got a job at the boat place, I started making their website and made it in Dreamweaver. Made a really, really crappy static HTML website in Dreamweaver that was like 100% sliced Photoshop images with hover effects and
Image
then,
maps?
Yeah, it wasn't image maps, but it was I don't remember what it was. It was where you hover over it and it switches the image, but I don't think it was.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're
Forget
talking
what
about.
it was. It wasn't like JavaScript or a sprite or anything. It was like some crappy like Dreamweaver way of doing it. I don't even remember what it was. But and then started making websites for clients. And my very first experience with WordPress was I had absolutely no idea how WordPress worked or even how PHP worked or anything. And so I was like, I want to try out this WordPress thing, and I need to install it. I have no idea how. So I went on Craigslist and I'm like, I'm going to hire. So I need a developer who can install WordPress for me. And this developer pinged me, and I'm like, how much are you going to charge me to install WordPress? He's like, $5. And I'm like, $5? Like, I must be missing something here, because like, is it really that easy? Like, I have no idea how this works, and it really is that easy. And but I was like, do I have to like change something on the server if I'm switching from HTML to PHP? Because does the server need to like do something different? Like, I was just so clueless. Literally knew nothing. And but then just kind of kept working at it, and like anybody does, you just start learning it one thing at a time. So
So you like Angular the best? Have you tried the other ones, or?
yeah, so I've built apps with both React and Angular and React. I tried out React Native when it first came out too, and I really like React. I got really heavy into Angular before React was even out, or maybe not before it was out, but at least like pretty early on, and just started learning it a lot. I just didn't want to switch over or anything because I already knew Angular. But I mean, the funny thing is now with Angular 2 coming out, Angular 2 and React are like almost exactly the same. And I'm sure that someone who knows more about these frameworks would tell me that I'm totally wrong. But like the way that they work with like the virtual DOM and like they're both using like all the new like TypeScript and ES6 and these like, I don't even know what it's really called in JavaScript, but it just, the whole syntax and the way that you build stuff is all just really similar. But Angular has some advantages over React, like just the way that like the controllers and everything. But I know with Angular 2, some of it's changing. But basically, I built an app with Angular 2 and with React, and I'm kind of like, this felt like exactly the same to me. So, and they're both going to be able to be transitioned to fully native apps with native script for Angular 2 and React Native for React. And so it's like the advantages and disadvantages, like, to me, it's pretty much the same thing. So to me, I think it's just going to depend on what the community gets behind and says, and one of them eventually will just kind of slowly fade away, I think. I don't think there's going to be room for two different major frameworks over the long term.
For Angular, how did you pick that up? Like, is that the first one that you tried, or was there like something online that sparked your liking to it?
It was because the Ionic framework uses Angular, and the Ionic framework was definitely the best hybrid app development framework. When it came out, it was just blew everything else away. And so I was like, I want to use this, so I'm going to have to learn how to use Angular. And when I started learning it, it was really, really difficult to me conceptually, just because I had no experience with anything except for just vanilla JavaScript and jQuery, and I wasn't even really that great at those either. And so learning Angular, I had like the whole like scope thing and like binding and all this weird stuff. The way that Angular loads the chunks of code is really, it's just really different. So I would write a function inside of a controller, and I would go to the page and I'm like, why is this not working? Like, it won't go. I know that this controller goes here, and like the function is not executing. What is happening? And so it was just so weird to me to kind of figure all that stuff out and understand it. Once I did, it's kind of like, okay, cool. Then I can go to React, and React works in a very similar way, and for some parts of it. And I'm like, okay, I already get this like conceptually, so it's pretty easy to pick up. But man, the learning curve with Angular for me at least was pretty steep.
So all the kids that want to learn it, you would suggest selling boats first.
Yes, definitely. Gave me all the experience I needed for JavaScript.
Were there any devs or resources that helped you get over that, or it was just a lot of headbanging?
A lot of just doing stuff. The only way that I can learn really well is just by trying to do something and just figuring it out, or breaking something and fixing it. And I think a lot of developers are the same way. But you know, like reading a book about a framework or a language that I don't know, it does absolutely nothing for me. So it's only like after I've pretty much all but mastered Angular, if I read a book on Angular, then I'll pick some small stuff up that I missed along the way. That's the only way that it could help me. You know, there's good tutorials online and stuff, but man, I'm totally like self-taught, which I don't say that in a good way. I don't even necessarily think that's a good thing, but that's just the only way that I can learn.
Did you learn by like real world examples, like client examples, or was it more like, all right, I need to know this, you know, so I'm gonna like play for a few hours at night and just kind of build my own thing? I
just started building apps. So I was just with Ionic, and the great part about Ionic is that it abstracts away some of the more difficult parts of Angular for you. Like a lot of the routing and stuff they already have kind of set framework boilerplate ways for you to deal with that. And so that made it really easy for me as well, because it was kind of like Angular, but a little bit easier than it would have been if I just started from scratch with Angular. So that helped too. And then, so for me, I think the best way to learn is like to start with the easiest part possible, the most abstract, like frameworked way that you can. And then once you get the hang of that, then go a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper. Like vanilla JavaScript is awesome, but I mean, I don't think anybody should start writing, you know, like vanilla JavaScript with like prototypes and dealing with like nodes and you know, things like that. Like start with jQuery, it's easier, you know, why the heck not? So, but then once you get that, then learn, you know, that your jQuery selector you can also use, you know, get element by ID, you know. So, but that just to me is the easiest way to do it.
I think that makes sense. It gives you kind of a framework to build off of. And yeah, you're using a framework to do it, so that's sort of the point. But
yeah, it stops you from getting discouraged, right? Like you actually have fun doing it, you're going to keep at it.
Yeah, you can actually make something that does something rather than just poking at it and wishing it would move.
Yeah, totally.
So did you always want to be a founder, or did you kind of just fell into that way with AppPresser?
Well, I used to do client work. I used to work for a company where I would do their graphic design and web design, and then I kind of broke off from that and started taking client work just because I could make the same amount, or if not more, money doing that. And then, and I think I just thought doing a product would be cool. Like it would be, I would be able to scale it and like, you know, make money while I'm not actually billing hours, and I just thought it was interesting, and I definitely think my personality, like I kind of need to be doing my own thing, just because I don't take direction well. I don't like doing phone calls with clients, and I don't like other people telling me what to do, and I have kind of like strong ideas about what I want to do myself. So I feel like it was always going to end up there at some point.
Did you kind of test the market with AppPresser then, or how did you know to like, okay, this is the product that I want to build?
Well, the first company that I did was a premium theme company called Press Coders, and then so when I started searching for a new idea for a business for AppPresser, I kind of just thought it would be a cool idea, and I thought for like a couple months, just brainstorming different ideas, and that idea would for mobile apps and WordPress, it just kind of struck me as like no other idea did, and I was like, this sounds awesome. Nobody else is really going for it in the product space with this, and I just really want to do this. And I didn't test the market or anything, didn't do anything. I skipped all the steps that I should have done, and just kind of went for it. So, and I feel like I got kind of lucky that it did actually get traction right from the get-go. And now when I'm looking at building another product, I'm going to do the complete opposite and do like, release a small, sort of MVP and test the market and do all these types of other things, because the next product I do, I want it to be many multiples more of what I'm doing now. I don't want to build another product that's like the same sort of level as AppPresser. I want to do 10 times that. And so to do that, I think I have to be way more careful and deliberate about where, how I make that happen.
But so before you started AppPresser and started really focusing on that, did you have clients that were, I guess, sort of wanting that kind of product anyway? Is that kind of what sparked your idea to really start into it?
No. I wasn't really doing client work at the time, and so I was just doing the themes. But I know what you're getting at, and this is not me advising anyone else to do it the way I did it, but I think what you're getting at is a really good way to do it. Is to be like, okay, what are my clients? What if I have like every single client asks me for this and this? Then you could, okay, so I'll make a product that does that because everybody wants it or whatever. That's a great way to do it. That's just not what I did. I just kind of thought mobile apps and WordPress would be cool. Everybody likes mobile apps. I'm gonna make it happen. So.
Yeah, because I mean it's funny how you say that, because usually there's some sort of I don't know, birth of the idea, right? And it seems like you just I was creating themes, and you know what, I'm just gonna go in a completely opposite direction, and I'm gonna build this, and hopefully it works, and obviously you're successful with it, and that doesn't happen very often.
Right. Well, the main instigator of that, or the catalyst, was Matt Mullenweg at the State of the Word in 2012 and 2013, I think. He mentioned WordPress being an app framework both times. And to me, I thought mobile apps. And for him, I think he was thinking more of web apps and things like that. And maybe he was even thinking forward towards the API. I really wasn't. I was just like, oh, apps, mobile apps, cool. I'm going to do native mobile apps. So that was really the spark. And then when I got together with WebDev, they had already done some stuff as well, with Dallas Museum of Art, where they did iPad kiosks. That kind of it's just a website, but it was in app form, where it was more of an interactive thing on an iPad kiosk, and really worked more like an app than a website. And so we kind of put our heads together on that.
So you mentioned about before we wrap this up, because I know that we've been here for an hour and I don't want to hold you up anymore, but you kind of talked about in the beginning your company's story, when Dre came on and stuff. So what is AppPresser's story?
Sure. So with AppPresser, we help developers and website builders create mobile apps that integrate with WordPress affordably, and we have the deepest integration with WordPress than any other products out there. So if you want to build a mobile app that integrates, you have a bunch of custom plugins, you have a login, you have e-commerce site, whatever it is, making that into an app is incredibly expensive, if not just completely out of the realm of doable. So with AppPresser, we make it very simple and affordable to just put everything that's on your site, all the custom stuff, into an app and get it onto the app stores. Now, were you talking about our founding story, or because I kind of gave you just our product rundown?
Yeah, I mean, you were mentioning that your content and your messaging and everything else is kind of telling your company's story and stuff. So that's kind of where I was going.
Sure. So let me. Our founding story. Well, I kind of already touched on it, but
Right.
basically when Mullenweg, he talked about apps, that kind of sparked the idea. And then, I mean, we have kind of an interesting story about how we built the whole product. I mean, when we started out, we had no idea how to do this. It wasn't like we were a bunch of app experts and mobile app experts and we just knew what we were doing. we like had no idea how to do it. So we like toyed with a couple different ideas of building everything from scratch, and then we kind of found like the PhoneGap framework had already did a lot of the stuff that we needed, and we started integrating PhoneGap features. And I mean, every single feature that we built, we had no idea if it was going to work. And then I would kind of tinker around and like say like with the device camera, I would kind of tinker around and be like, I don't know if this is going to work, and I just kind of had to try to build it and pulled up my phone, and I like clicked on the camera button and the camera opened up, and I'm like, sweet, it works. And I mean, every single feature was like that, and it like down to push notifications, and it was like, I got these other things to work, but I really don't think push notifications is going to work. And but then I sort of tinkered with it, like send a notification to my phone, and I'm like, yes, so excited. And the final test for it was kind of like if Apple was going to just reject our app for any reason or whatever, and be like, no, the way you built this is not allowed in the App Store for whatever reason. And so when we submitted our first app, I was like so nervous, and I was like, if they reject our app, like we just have no company, and all these months of development is just like flush down the toilet, find a new idea. And so I remember distinctly, I was in the car, like on the way, I think my wife and I were going on vacation somewhere, and got an email like your app is approved, like pending App Store approval, and then it's like live on the App Store, and I was just over the moon. I'm like, yes, like we have a company, and we actually have something that's going to work now, and then we're kind of like full steam ahead and get it out the door. So that was kind of a wild journey, lots of ups and downs.
I liked what you were getting at before about you did it because you scratched your own itch rather than scratching your client's itch. And I think that plays something into being successful too, because if you're doing it for them, maybe you lose the drive and motivation to actually bring it to completion. Whereas if you're doing it for yourself, you're at least going to go and put it out there and see if it works or not, rather than going and getting 90% there and shelving it and never knowing if it was going to work or not because you just don't care.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yes, motivating, like self-motivation is a huge factor of it. If you're going to lose interest, you're doing something just because you think it's going to make money or your clients want it, but you actually are really bored with the idea, that's going to be a recipe for disaster.
So we're at like 7:05 now. Where can people find you on the interwebs? Or in real life, maybe?
In real life, yeah. Meet me at the Starbucks in the corner now. Yeah, so AppPresser.com, 3 Ps, AppPresser, and then ScottBolinger.com is my personal blog, Scott Bolinger on Twitter.
Right on. Jason, how about you?
@Res, that's with 3 Zs, on Twitter, and res.com. What about you, Tom?
2 letters is the most of anything I think I have in my name. I'm at Tom Harrigan on Twitter, thomasharrigan.com, and maybe I'll post a video to YouTube someday. But
3 Gs? No?
What? 1 G.
Not 3 Gs? Oh.
2 R's. 2 R's, 1 G.
There you go.
Yeah. 3 A's.
There you go.
In the full
all
name.
right.
Yeah, not on Twitter. Thank you all for tuning in. If you'd like, check out our website, wpdevtable.com/subscribe, and we're on iTunes, YouTubes, and all the other stuff, the Twitters. So check us out, find something that you like interacting with us on, and we'll see you there. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you for joining us, Scott.
You're welcome.
Excellent, Scott.
Thank you.